Yeah, and I'm sure that there are some people who are going to be like, well, I write 20 pages a day and I'm published, but like the point is it's the practice, not the amount of
Exactly.
pages. Yeah, one of the things that I fell into, because I used to think that, to me, I guess what I was trying to get to when I mentioned it was the competition aspects of it seemed amateur
Yes.
to me. And one of the things that I really appreciate that I came into almost around the time that I went back to school, I went back to school in my mid 30s, was I no longer felt the need to do that. I no longer felt the need to publish it. I no longer felt the need to get an agent. All that stuff that I had in my brain when I was younger kind of went the way of the dodo when I figured out finally how to write. And
Hmm.
knowing how to write and knowing how to write are two different things, right? So what's the best way to put this? Well, you were saying initially that you like to dabble. You go in a little
Yeah.
bit, leave it, go in again later, a little bit, leave it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite way of writing. I've been working on a novella that way for like 4 years now. We're talking like really short novel. And when I take that approach, I find the stories surprise me more. And that's one thing that I don't hear enough writers talking about is the need to be surprised. I need to be surprised by the final thing. I need the
Yeah.
final thing to always be, and this applies to my film work as well. I never thought that I could do that. I never thought that that was a story that was in me. Case in point, I started this one novella about a guy who kind of comes into some bit of magic where he can seduce anybody he wants. It was meant to be a tongue-in-cheek Bukowski-ish like raunchy thing. I'm like, I'm gonna make a ton of money off this, and all these idiots are gonna buy it. But then it sort of evolved into an alien abduction thing where they're like, you're not allowed to have that power. And so now the whole final third of it is him kind of being taken down by an alien civilization who's sort of where it reveals that we as humans are under the thumb of management, so to speak, and that he fucked everything up by figuring out this magic. And I don't know, like had I rushed to finish it 4 years ago, it wouldn't have evolved into that. And I don't know if it's done, and I don't know if I'm keeping that. But if I waited another year, what could it possibly evolve into? It's this like
Hmm.
this organic experimentation thing where if the final thing is just a mishmash of all the drafts, that's cool too. Like
Yeah.
that was one idea I had when I was in a meeting with David Hollander, and I'd pitched to him this idea. What if I took and just published all the drafts of the same short story? It's just a book of the same short story and every variation that has
Yeah.
ever existed. And that's what I'm more interested in. I don't care about the polished work.
Yeah. See, that's so funny. I'm the same way. Like that's something I've been thinking about a lot is sort of like the messiness of what like art can do. Like because I mean I I actually do a lot of music as well. And I think there's a big trend of people are using like Ableton and all of these DAWs to create all these works. And I love the stuff that people create, but I feel like whenever I use that stuff, it's always I can never get anything done. But what I do now is I just have like I have a modular synth that I just patch up from scratch every single time and just kind of wing it and just improvise and just what comes out is messy. It's very like uncouth in a way. It's very unpolished, but I love it. Like I love how it comes out, and it's that's kind of the same thing with my writing. That's kind of what I like to do is not worry too much about making sure that I'm doing some sort of Don DeLillo, like every single word is perfectly picked out and placed in the sentence. But while that can have a lot of that can be a very beautiful outcome, but I feel like I just want to get on to the next thing sometimes too. But yeah, like that's definitely a big thing is like, and I think with with publishing, it's you're kind of inviting. things to be too perfect almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing with every medium. The moment you intend to have the public pay money for it, you're almost obligated to polish it.
Yeah.
And I've seen things where people will release independent documentaries and stuff and end up being sued because somebody paid money for something really low quality. And
Yeah.
there's actual legal arguments that go back and forth about that stuff.
Oh
Like,
yeah. I mean, do you play a lot of video games or
I don't do
um
video games. No,
okay. Hey, have
still
you
one
heard
medium.
about have you heard in the news about Cyberpunk 2077, or I think that's
Mm-mm.
the name of the game? So the company that put this out, they've been talking about this for years, really just gearing up, really creating a lot of hype. Keanu Reeves is attached to this video game and stuff like that. And like he came out at like I think one of the video game awards and just did like a whole thing. It was, I mean, people were really pumped for this thing. And when it got released last year, it was essentially unfinished. And it was so full of glitches and to the point that it was almost unplayable, and people just really like I think the developer ended up getting sued by their own shareholders because of just the lack of finished quality. And see, like I guess that's a different circumstance than what we're talking about, because we're talking about like let's face it, we're kind of low level. We're not spending $1 million developing a video game here, and we're not getting Keanu Reeves attached to play it, and things like that. We're not spending 5 years developing this thing and then having it come out like this. It's just interesting, sort of that level of like money talks, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, it sounds too like there was a bit of I forget the word slips my mind right now, but they were almost too confident, and they released it thinking it was going to be a hit no matter what happened. It's
Oh,
almost like that Star Wars presumption. Hey, we
oh
could put
yeah,
horses on spaceships. It's still going to make all this money.
yeah.
Like,